Hello and welcome to Her Theology. My name is Cass and I'm so glad that you're with me today. And this is the last time I have to give a little bit of warning for this series. It's nice to say this is the last time, but if you have little ears listening into this episode, we are going to talk about a 3-letter word that potentially you haven't discussed with them. And I hate to think that they learn about it from me. So if you could hit pause on this episode and listen to a time that it's a bit more suitable, then that would be great. Now, this leads me into welcoming in the last episode in this series talking about sex as it pertains to the different life stages we find ourselves in as Christian women and men. And the reason why I've done this series, and I've said it before, but I will just say it again, is the reason why I'm doing this is because I believe the church should be recognized for its strong marriages. Not everyone will be married, but for those of us that are married, they should be healthy, strong, loving, respectful marriages. And a huge part of marriage is sex and intimacy. And so I wanted to get Christian sexologists, sex therapists to come on and to discuss what it means for us at different stages of our lives as we prepare for sex, as we're newly married, as we are hitting midlife, maybe parenting for some of us. And then now in this episode, retirement. What does it look like? You know, you've done the menopause journey, you've done the majority of life, the young years, and now you're looking at the more wiser, mature, beautiful gray years that you're in. And what does that mean for you as a Christian woman, but also as a Christian man? What can you expect in regards to your sex drive? What can you expect to change in regards to your physical body? What does this look like to maintain intimacy within marriage? And so we talk about all that with my guest, Patricia Warekoon. Now, if you are not familiar with Patricia Warekoon, she is a wealth of knowledge. She originally trained in medicine in the University of Sri Lanka and then did a postgraduate study in sexology in the University of Hawaii many moons ago. And she has just recently, in the past few years, retired after 22 years as an academic at the University of Sydney. And so she has just traveled the world. She's speaking on this topic. She has counseled countless couples and individuals in this space. She speaks at churches and conferences. She's been on many podcasts, and she has written a ton of books. The Best Sex for Life, Talking About Sex by the book, The Birds and the Bees by the books, which is like working through this sort of stuff with your kids. She's recently done the Transgender Revolution, which I had her on and talk about. And if you know Patricia Warekoon, you will know she is so much fun. She made this episode hilarious. I loved every minute of it. I learned so much. And I know you might be listening going, oh, that's not the stage I'm in. I think everyone should listen to this, and this should be shared far and wide, because most of us will venture into the years where life has changed and we're towards the back end of the years, and it's a great joy to be able to have the wisdom and life experience that comes with that. But there's a lot of changes, right? And so what should we all expect? And I think that's super helpful when we start going into navigating the generational gaps in sexual understanding and the importance of communication and just exploring the intimacy and sensuality that we need to fight for and work for as we grow older. And so I really appreciate Patricia's wisdom and experience in this space. And so if you want to find out more about Patricia Warekoon, you can head to Patricia Warekoon, and that's WEERAKOON.com. And you'll be able to find out more about her there. But I hope you enjoy this episode. Now, before we get stuck in, I'll be very quick to say a bit of admin-y stuff as always. If you are new to Her Theology, welcome. I appreciate you being here. It is such a joy having new listeners join in. I release episodes every single week, and you can find out way more about Her Theology, about the vision, mission, and the plans at hertheology.com. And you can also sign up to become an insider there and get onto the email database, which, again, you won't receive many emails. It's just so you can stay up to date on the important stuff. Also head to Instagram and follow along on there. That's where we're going to get most information about stuff going on, and just a whole lot of random thoughts that I have throughout the week, and see a bit of my personal life. And it's just a bit of It's a fun place where I just put random things along with podcast shorts. And to my regular listeners, thank you so much for listening. You're such a blessing to me and such an encouragement. I love it when you reach out. So if you have any questions or any feedback, please feel free to do so. You can do that via social media. You can email me hertheology@gmail.com, or you can do it via the website. You can also get me to speak at some conferences or women's events or whatever it is, churches. So hit me up if you want that to happen. I have taken a few years off doing that, but I used to do that full time. So it's good to try and get back into that this year. So I'm just going to put that out there. You can contact me on the website and find out more about that there under speaker. Other than that, leave a review, share it with your friends and family. It's exciting to wrap up this series at the same time. It's been such a joy. I have learned so much, and I hope it helps so many people within the church to create healthy, strong marriages, to create healthy understandings and expectations around intimacy and sex, and just that God may be glorified, because what He's created is good, and His plans and purposes for His people is good, and we should fight for that, and we should be aware of it. And so I hope this is the case for this series. I hope it's helped you, and if it has, share it with your friends. Like I said, that would be really helpful. All right, enjoy the episode. Patricia, thanks for coming on again with me. I really appreciate your time. Sorry, you could say hello.
Well, I was going
feel
to
like I
say
talked over
thank you for
then.
having me back. I really don't know why you want an old subcontinental 77-year-old sexologist back with you, but good to be with you.
Oh, my listeners and I love you. We love the wisdom that you instill, the experience you have, and just the heart you have for Jesus and His people. And that's what's most important. So this Patricia, we had to get you on for this last episode of this series on sex, because we've covered all the different stages of life, and it is only suiting that you come back on. If you've been following along, Her Theology listeners, I've interviewed Patricia before for her book, The Transgender Revolution, that's here, that she co-authored with her with her son Kamal, and also Robert Smith. But I had to get you back on because we're going to talk about, retirement age, old age, and what that looks like for us in our sex life. And so depending where you're at, you might think, oh, this episode's not really relevant to me. But I think it is relevant to every single one of us, because I have some beautiful, dear, wonderful, godly older women that listen to this podcast. And I wanted to make sure I did an episode that actually helps them specifically with where they're at, but also to help us that are younger go, oh, that's what I have to look forward to. These are some of the things I need to be aware of. And what are some of the steps I can take in my marriage now to set us up for success in the future? Understanding that body changes, life changes, and there's a lot of things that get thrown at us, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and we can still have a lot of fun in our marriage. So, if you're not in this age and stage at the moment, don't tune off, because I think this would be really helpful. And it might also be really helpful for you to be able to help other women in your church that are maybe struggling. So now, what can you talk us through, and you don't have to get personal here, but what has been some of the pleasant surprises and also some of the unexpected changes that have arrived in the more mature years?
Well, thank you, Cass, and thank you for having me. And I'm really happy to talk to this issue because, as you said, I've lived it, and now I'm 77. But I guess I'm in a way privileged because I lived it with the knowledge of what would happen, because I'm a medical doctor by training. And my research area is in sexuality and sexual health. So it's kind of, I knew what to expect, which I think is a little bit of an advantage over many other women. But I think the thing that we need to understand, and which I kind of knew was happening, is that the changes in the body happen. So there will be biological, physiological changes that we really can't do much about. Look, we can slow some things down. We can manage them by exercise and diet and just, the way we deal with stress and all these things. We can manage it, but it is inevitable. I mean, I tell young people when I speak in the marriage seminars, I say, look, you are all young and tight and taut, but there will come a time when parts of your anatomy migrate south to the South Pole. It will happen. It may be some
Ah,
time to go for some of you, but look, the reality is that not everything's going to stay perky forever. And I think it's in
nope. And it
for
happens
some,
quite quickly.
yes, but for others, you stay perky for a while. But like in Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 5, and he's right, be delighted by your woman, enjoy the wife of your youth, dear, adore. And I say, even when the doe is got arthritic and the deer isn't moving that fast, even then, be, enticed by each other. And it's such advice that changes happen. However, I think the important thing here is, what is your attitude towards it? Do you flow with the changes, accepting this is happening? How do I accept it and make the best of it? Or am I going to fight it? If you fight it, then you end up
Mm,
depressed and sad. So, this is what I have learned. And this is not just marrieds, it's even for singles. Is that, when you look at your body and you think, oh my goodness, is this what it is? I mean, and I live in a house, a unit, where when I get out of bed, I'm faced with a full length mirror. I mean, ceiling to floor mirror, not a good sight. And you look at yourself and you think, is this it at 77? But we need to see. So, am I going to embrace that, or am I going to be depressed by it first thing in the morning? So, attitude matters more than what your body is really like. And this
mm,
particularly important with aging. So, that's one thing, the body. The other thing, especially in couple relationships, is the fact that function changes. So your function changes.
yes.
For women, you have reached menopause, your hormones have gone down, and this affects your brain and all parts of your body. And your vagina, your uterus, everything is affected by the hormonal changes. So there will be physiological changes that affect your body. So desire, yeah, you continue to feel desire, but it changes. For some women, it drops quite dramatically with your estrogen levels going down. For others, the release from not having to worry about contraception is actually about, like, whoopee, let's go. So it changes. Now, and remember that if you're
Yeah.
married, there's a man involved. And he's got parts of his anatomy also migrating to the South Pole. And so, he's not going to be as tight and taut and wonderful as before. That's
A
right. Not the
stallion.
stallion who kind of gets his barometer up at the first, whatever. But the reality is that, particularly for men, there are changes that we need to recognize, like sexual function. You may not be able to get up and go as soon as you want to for a man. So both of you have changes happening in your body and in your sexual organs and in your brain. And therefore, the most important thing is to how you work together. Communication, compromise is so important. And to just close up this
Yeah.
introduction, if at some time you do feel that you need some help, never be ashamed to ask for help, to ask for counseling. And there's some really good therapists. You had them on the show, you know, all over Australia. And if you're listening international, there will be Christian therapists. Just don't be ashamed to ask for help. Talk to your doctor, because some things may
Yeah.
be due to illness, may be due to the drugs you're taking. And a doctor may be help you to negotiate that even before you see a counselor or a therapist.
Yeah. And that's been the resounding thing in this series, is that hearing all these professionals speak and experienced about it is like, talk to someone. Talk to someone if you are stuck, and talk to each other. Like, communication is such a key part of connection for sex. Like, it has to happen. I have learned so much learning from all of you about the importance of communication. And it's so silly because you're married and you talk all the time, but being intentional about that conversation around sex and expectations is a game changer. Absolutely a game changer. And it's nice to hear it doesn't end. You still need to continue having those
Yeah,
conversations till the day you got, till
yeah,
one of you dies,
because,
unfortunately.
Cass, as you see, I think it's 1 Corinthians 7, where Paul writes, husband, your body belongs to the wife. Wife, your body belongs to the husband. Don't deny each other unless it's for taking time out to prayer and do some Bible study, but then jump back
Yep.
together. The point is, he didn't quite put it that way, but that's what he meant. And the point is, it's a
A
whole
summarized version.
body experience. And as you age, this becomes even more important.
Mm.
Because for women, with the estrogen going down, intercourse could be painful and uncomfortable. So, and for the
Interesting.
man, if he isn't
Okay.
getting a firm erection, then intercourse may not even be possible. And things like hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, many medications could cause it. So, do you go and get some medication or some surgery to get an erection? Or do you, as a couple, talk about it and say, look, our whole body is an erotic organ. How about we talk to each other and really enjoy each other? See, I tell even young people, intimacy is not equal to intercourse. Even when you're young, learn that, there is, especially for men, I say not every erotic arrow points to your genital. You have a whole body to enjoy each other. And so that's important. While we are talking about, intimacy, whole body, sensuality is more important than sexual intercourse.
So do you find working with women, I'm not sure if you work with women a similar age as yours or not, but I imagine there's an element of generational gaps of understanding sexuality. So you have like a younger generation that's kind of had that sexual revolution. Your generation was in the midst of that as well. But like, porn is so prevalent now. And so, and the society is just so over sexualized, which is not new news, but it's even more in your face now. And so, and excuse, this is probably the wrong way to say it, but I'm just going to be honest because it probably resonates for many of us. But, I have my grandmother who I love dearly, but I can't even say the word vagina around her. She's so prudish in her language and her communication and understanding of sex. And I've had discussions with older women that are like, oh, no, you don't do that once you get older. Like, there's this mindset. So I'm just curious, like, what's your pushback? How do you get women or men that are feeling awkward and feel like they can't talk about this because they're not in a society where that's not the society they grew up in, where it's so open. How do you navigate that as Christians, and what's your encouragement to men and women that might find themselves in that situation but are desperately stuck? How do they get those first steps
thank
going?
you. Because that again brings me back to, I guess, one of the things that I'm really interested in is what is intimacy? And I've spoken in retirement villages where I don't even mention intercourse till far way down the talk. I start off by saying, let's talk about intimacy. Now, you may be single, you may be married, you may be divorced, you may be a widow, maybe a widower. Let's talk about intimacy. Now, you grew up in a time when even intimacy wasn't discussed. Forget intercourse, forget penis and vagina. And of course, they blush even the moment I say it. But look, if an old gray haired Sri Lankan can say it, well, anyone can. So the point is, think
That's right.
intimacy and think whoever you are, whatever age really, but let's concentrate on the more mature adult. you must first look at levels of intimacy that anyone can share, but is particularly important in a couple relationship. So, what I say is, what is, if you're Christians, what is your foundational intimacy? Your foundational intimacy is a spiritual intimacy. And we need to hold on to that. Are you
Mm.
praying together? Are you reading the Word of God together? And this can be single friends. I mean, you could be married couples where the women are together and very intimate. My bestie, both are married. She's Australian, she's married, but we have a level of intimacy because at that spiritual level, we share. We are both in our 70s, we share.
Yes.
And then, what about other levels of intimacy like recreational intimacy? Do you play together? I mean, look, maybe playing together when you were younger was, I don't know, you played basketball. Maybe now it's a board game, but that's okay. Are you doing fun things together?
Yeah.
Are you having intelligent, intellectual intimacy? Are you discussing something important that's happening in Australian politics or something? Little spheres of intimacy that must interlink, and that then leads to the deeper, what we would call emotional intimacy. Are you sharing of
Yes.
yourself and your feelings? You see, without the deeper levels, you can't dive in and say, oh, you've got to share. You've got to share your inmost feelings. You haven't built the
Mm.
foundations. You can't turn it on. Even with couples counseling, I don't do counseling now. Stopped about 4 or 5 years ago when it just became too much. Actually, just before COVID. At COVID, I thought, that's enough. Done it.
Good.
I'm 70.
Good
That's it.
timing.
Good time. Yep. So, but
It
the
was your
point is,
sign.
till then, and
Yeah.
even now, when I talk to people, I say, I can give you exercises of listening and sharing. And, there's all these formal exercises for communication. But it's all becomes very legalistic and, following the rules unless you have laid a foundation. Then you can get to a point of being honest. As Christians, we are told right from Genesis, they were naked and felt no shame. See, nakedness, people immediately think, whoop, take your clothes off. Nakedness is actual total vulnerability. And when you are emotionally
Yeah.
naked with someone, you better be certain that you can be totally, totally certain that you can be unashamed with that person. That is total trust, Cass.
Mm.
Total vulnerability and total
Yeah.
trust is where true emotional intimacy. That is what I used to try to train, and now I try to talk to older people for, and younger people too. And like you said, it becomes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, we grew up in a time when penises and vaginas were not mentioned, and maybe even, like, people were not, as a couple, emotionally intimate, because they were like, especially growing up in the subcontinent, often, husband wife had the babies and then they just moved in to separate rooms and led separate lives. But that was never a healthy relationship.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I see it here too. Couples who are older, who are like just going their own way and just have meals together, maybe,
Mm.
or yeah, flatmates,
They're
and sit in
flatmates in
front
a
of
way.
television with their meals. And that's sad, because we are made for that one flesh sharing. Once you got emotional intimacy, then we talk about physical intimacy. And you see, that's right up to now, we can
Mm.
talk about singles and marrieds together. A hug. We all have a
Yeah.
skin
Yeah. Yeah.
hunger. So, hugging your single girlfriend is a good thing because she needs that hug too.
Yeah.
We are all skin hungry. And,
Yeah. It's really interesting you bring that point because my husband and I always like to hug people when they arrive to our house. And it's so funny how
Yeah.
many people are so uncomfortable with it. But we're like, no, we actually have a conversation about it. We're like so determined to break down the barriers of so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, because
it's
even
quite funny.
many of,
Yeah.
especially our generation, the boomers type, you may think they're like free sex and all that. But especially in the church, they were not huggers, they were not physically intimate. There was barriers. So now it's important. And then they get older and there's no one to even, just stroke their hand or just give them that, and your skin
Yeah.
needs touch. We are made for intimacy. The Trinity were besties from eternity to eternity. No greater love is there. And we
So
are
true.
created in that image.
Yeah.
So up to that level of physical intimacy, everyone. And then, as we mentioned, when you move into the sexual intimacy, that's where it's a husband, wife, one flesh relationship. Now, again, as you said, yes, older people may feel embarrassed. How do you break down the barriers? You just take away, firstly, the icing or whatever you call it of intercourse and sexual intimacy, and introduce the whole holistic intimacy that anyone can share, and then say, husband, wife, nothing to be ashamed. You're meant to be a one flesh together. So, whole body, meant to share, go for it. May not be like the fireworks over the harbor
Yeah.
bridge that you had when you were 25. Maybe more like a sizzle in the backyard barbecue, but you have the sizzle. And occasionally there will be the times when you can bring back the fireworks.
And what happens if they feel like they don't even know how to start the sizzle? Like how they like what it like I know we're getting into it a little bit. It feels like a counseling session, but that's okay. I'm hoping it can help some people and points them maybe to the need for some sessions with other therapists. But what are some practical things they could do, like to get their mind out of, like,
Yeah,
ease themselves back into
that's
it?
a wonderful question, Cass, because that's one of the things that any of your therapists you interview would say is like, again, take the emphasis off the intercourse and concentrate on building sensuality.
Mm,
I've worked with couples, young and old, where, and especially if they're older, they've built such strong habits of separation that even at the beginning, just getting them to sit side by side and never mind even holding hands.
hold
Just,
hands or something.
when was the last time
Oh,
you
wow.
guys
Okay.
actually sat with your bodies touching on the sofa and even watched something
Wow.
on TV? Just sat close to each other. That's how hard it is. When was the last time you actually just were even semi nude in bed and just held each other? So just baby steps sometimes,
Mm,
teaching couples to just be close to each other. All those steps of intimacy, just mild physical. Then take them through, getting comfortable with just being semi naked together, then naked together. Then forget that you have what we call the bathing suit areas. So forget your genital and breasts and just try touching other parts of the body. And through all this, at the expense of being so repetitive, communicate. Does this feel good for you? Does
yes.
this feel good? Well, where would you like me to touch? Often it is like, I don't even know, because I don't know my body. So would you like? And then you're like, ew, that's awful when you touch me there. And that's okay. Oh, okay, how about here? So communication, baby steps of intimacy, communication at every stage. In my book, The Best Sex for Life, there's an appendix at the back called Sensuality Exercises, where we take people through baby steps and point back to references from Song of Songs, how the couple enjoy every sense: touch, smell,
Yes.
taste. You got all these senses. vibration, just all these senses. Go ahead and look. Before you're asking me, since I mentioned vibration, people ask, what about using some kind of a sex toy? Is that okay? And I say, look, it's very dependent on the couple. There are sex toys and sex toys. What I
Mm,
recommend is do not go, whatever age you are, into a sex shop because it's not healthy. The things you see there are not healthy. But if you must get something like what's
oh,
a
it's very in your
vibrator,
face.
get it online if you must. Make it a part of your play if both partners are willing and happy to do it. It's more like a massage tool,
Yep.
really. I mean, a vibrator, it just is a
Yep.
plastic tube that's supposed to be a penis shape. Never seen one. I've worked as a sex therapist and doctor in 3 continents. Not one looks like one of the ones that you get in the stores, but that's what it's supposed to mimic, and it's a battery and it vibrates fast. So you can use it. I've seen couples, I encourage them to use it like a massage tool over the body, just laughing and stimulating, and if it goes to the genitals, so be it. One proviso, especially for a girl, if you get used to having a woman, whatever age, you get used to having an orgasm with a vibrator, it gets even harder to actually get satisfaction with the male with the penis, because no penis can vibrate as fast as a vibrator.
No, definitely not. No,
Yeah.
penises
So
don't operate that
that's
way.
just
No.
another part.
But there's also other things, and there's other things you can get to help the men, like sex toy. The sex toys are far and wide, and I believe, Patricia, you might know them. I don't know, but I know that there was a little while ago, and I haven't looked at it, so I'm not absolutely certain. But there was like an online sex store for that was modest. So like when you go on there, you can't see photos of nudity and stuff. It was intentionally made for like Christian couples to be able to access these sort of resources and toys and have a bit of fun um, without the graphic images and
Hmm.
the dirtiness that surrounds online sex
Yeah,
stores.
yeah. I
So
mean, there are some things I
um,
say don't do
I
it.
don't.
I mean, I say
Um,
don't play dress up, because why are you dressing up? I mean, because that's so tied in with pornography. I mean, you watch porn, and then sometimes men watch porn and then they want the
interesting.
wife to dress up. Or the other thing I say, the whole thing of like what we call bondage discipline, like demeaning, because that is like, are you
Yeah, I
honoring
agree.
your partner? We are
Mm,
made to honor the partner. So just there are some things
not at
that I
all.
would say that's a no. But there are funny things like, like
Mm,
a sex monopoly play game or something, or there's sex dice where
yes.
one dice has parts of the body and the other one has things to do with it, and they come fluorescent, so you can even do it in the dark. And those are playful things you can. And even just
Yeah.
getting some nice sexy lingerie for your part, if your partner enjoys it, go for it, it doesn't matter. But if both of you
Yeah.
must be the communication, because again, we talked about pornography briefly. Unfortunately, at all ages, and what you said about especially young women now
Mm,
are feeling, and we won't go there because we are talking older people, but young women are feeling very pressured by the pornified behavior expected of them. Unfortunately, many
yeah.
men, even older men, are watching pornography. And so expecting wives to be
Yep.
living up to that pornified behavior. And that is a definite no, because that is unhealthy. And that, you watch
Yep.
porn and expect your wife to live up to it. It's a bit like, infidelity, really. Not bit like, it's infidelity, because you're watching porn and you're expecting your wife to be like the porn star. So yeah, so
Yeah, and
I
you're
mean
lusting over another. It's not.
that's
Yeah,
right. So
it's not
that
what God
I would
intended.
definitely say is a no. So I have no idea how we got to porn from where you
Mm.
started, but
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, which has been fantastic. I am curious to hear just, I guess, a bit more of this. I don't know if it's science data around it, because there seems to be this understanding. I talk to people my age, and we're like, a lot of people just think, oh, when you get old, you just don't have sex. That's it. Like, you might have sex once a year. That's it. So I'm just curious. Like, I read an article in the New York Times, which is from 2007, this research. So it's not recent, but they surveyed 3,000 people, and they older adults, and they asked them about sexual intimacy. And it wasn't just married. So it was single partnered. But so again, it's a New York Times secular article, but they were saying they found 53% of participants aged between 65 to 74 had sex at least once in the previous year, and in 75 to 85 age group, only 26% did, which seems like a massive drop all of a sudden. But I was just curious. I mean, this is again American data as well, but I was just wondering if you could speak into that. Like, is there a bit of a misunderstanding within the culture around this? Because the reason why I ask is because I also have a friend that works in a nursing home, and she comes back with some wild, wild stories about what happens in nursing homes. Like, wild, swapping partners and multiple people. It's just insane. So I'm a bit confused. What's true
Okay.
and what's
Okay.
not?
Couple of
What's
things
going on
here.
there?
There's function, bodily function. There is
Yep.
opportunity,
Mhm.
the availability of a partner.
Yep.
And then there is social and personal attitudes. So bodily function
Mm.
can be treated. So a woman who wants to have sex can get estrogen creams and estrogen treatment and, moisturizers, and that can be done. So, men, if you want to get erection, there's medications like Viagra, or there's even surgeries, and there's things that can
Yeah.
be done to give men an erection. So there is bodily function. Then there is the availability and opportunity. Now, a single woman living on her own, especially if she's a Christian woman, the opportunity of finding a sexual partner is not very high. Possible, but not very high. Now,
No.
then it's like the values and attitudes. We talked about pornography. We talked about, look, at one point, the nursing home residents like myself or older are the baby boomers. We grew up in the contraception free sex era. So, all through our life,
Yeah.
we've lived with the morality and limitations. Now we are old, and maybe even slightly on the dementia, or you can always use dementia as an excuse where you can remove those those barriers that held you back, the inhibitions, and you can go back to being that 23-year-old baby, 16-year-old of free sex and contraception. So who knows? I think it's a combination of all of it. It's the medicalization, it's
Mm.
the fact that partners are available or not, and your attitudes and the reduction of inhibition. Now, Cass, overlay that with pornography. Porn wires the brain to think that sex is something that must be expected and used, and really
Mm.
it changes the anything but the complete different view of sex to God's good one man, one woman, naked, no shame marriage relationship. So add this, and I can imagine your friend and all the stories she must have, because people are watching porn, and I didn't want to bring it up, but
Yeah. I
I
nearly
didn't
fell
want to
off my
bring it up, but
chair.
I have been told that these older men watch porn and they grab the carers when they go in. The young women who are going in
Yeah.
as carers
Yes.
get,
Yep.
they get fed, or they ask the carers, can you, bring me porn videos to watch, or can you even get me a surrogate? And, that's the level at which our society has accepted that sex is like a
Mm.
necessity for happiness. So unfortunate and sad, Because again, like we talked about that intimacy pyramid,
Mm.
as I called it, we have taken off all those wonderful lower levels of sharing and somehow made it only this physical, penis vagina intercourse. That's all that matters. Whereas really, there's so much of richness in actually sharing intimacy. And even when it comes to sex, Cass, what is sex? Your statistics. So people ask me sometimes, when I'm older, how many times should I be having sex with my wife? And I say, yeah, I mean, some couples, I'm in my 60s or 70s. I say, well, how about 3 times a day? So you get up in the morning and you reach across and you give her a good hug and a kiss. Mid morning, after lunch, another cuddle. Going to bed, a good old pash. You've had sex 3 times for the day and you haven't even reached for the genitals. How do you define sex? How do you define intimacy? Couples, whatever age you are, enjoy
Good point.
sensuality, enjoy intimacy. Intercourse is incidental. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah. Okay. That was fantastic, Patricia. Thank you for that. That's a lot. That's a really
And
good
now you're looking
encouragement
forward to aging,
for
aren't
all
you,
of us,
Kes?
actually. Yeah. Ah, it's good. Yeah, it'll be fun. I look forward to the quietness. I don't know if that's a very unrealistic expectation, but I look forward to be able to go,
Sorry,
ah,
sorry,
I could
sorry,
just
Cass, you're going to
take the
age
day as
like
it
me.
comes.
You're going to get up at 5 o'clock. You're going to get up at 5
It won't
o'clock and think,
happen.
oh my goodness, I've got up late today and I have so much to do.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I would love to hear to wrap us up actually your thoughts on retirement because I feel like I know it's a bit of a hot topic, but I do wonder if the church has adopted it a little bit too much. This concept of, well, I've hit this age and off I go. See you later. So what's your
Yeah,
encouragement on
I
retirement and
thank you,
just
Cass. I
aging in
think one of
general?
my, I just want to share one of my favorite verses, I guess, which has really helped me. It's Psalm 71:18,
Yep.
which goes, even to old age and gray hair, O God, do not forsake me until I proclaim your might to another generation, your power to all those to come. And you may be gray haired, but what
Lo-
is the purpose of your life? Now, once I, reached a time when I wasn't teaching 12 years ago, so I was writing, I was speaking, and if you missed it, I'm 77 now. And I think, how can I, in whatever way I can, reach out to give something back to the younger generation? Now, for me personally, like next week, I'm
Mm,
speaking at Katoomba Youth Convention. I've already spoken to 3 groups of over 2,000 kids, and so that's almost 1,000, and this will be another 2,000 plus kids and their workers. And look, but
so good. So
I mean,
good.
look, not everybody. Now, you're going to be an international speaker. You're going to have those opportunities, but maybe not everyone. But what can you do? The churches need to be encouraging mature women to be reaching out to younger women. Now, for me, again, I mean, there's so many the Bible speaks. I love Ecclesiastes. I think it's 12 or whatever, that talks about, remember your creator in the days of your youth, because there will be come a time when the grasshopper is dragging and desire fails and your grinders aren't working and your dentures fall out and, remember God, build relationship. So for me, it's like 3 young
Yeah.
women whom I praise God for COVID and for Zoom. I mean, I have 3 young women I meet with every other week, and we read the Bible, and we're young women, everything from like 28-year-old
So
to a
good.
60-year-old.
Yeah.
And, we churches must encourage. And look, it's biblical. It's nothing. Timothy
Yeah.
chapter 2. Older women train young women. The wisdom. Churches aren't, I really think
Oh,
churches
yes.
aren't using it. And not just older women and older men to share their wisdom
Mm,
with younger men and women. And unfortunately, churches have these generational services Like, one service in the morning for the oldies,
Yes,
one for the family, one for the, young professionals, one for the youth. Where do we get to meet the young ones unless you go out and
I know.
look for someone? I think churches are missing a huge opportunity. And even to share your sex life with them,
Yep.
young marrieds. I mean, I talk to young
Yes,
marrieds who have told me, Auntie, but then they know I'm a sexologist. Auntie, this, the subcontinental types, Indian, Sri Lankan, Nepalese. And, you know, just to be there for the young generation, churches have a resource that they are not using. Maybe some are, because there are some really good churches, I
I
think, that
agree.
are building on this, using the retirees for helping the young people. But many churches aren't. And that's a sad thing, because I think there's a lot that the mature adults can offer, especially in our culture today, where young people are being brought up to think it's all about me. It's only me, my desires. That's all
Mm.
that matters.
Hmm.
We need the older generation to be nurturing the young ones.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for that. It is so refreshing to hear. And I love meeting people that are in retirement age that have not taken on retirement, in a sense, that are willing to stick around at church and serve and invest. And so I hope anyone that's listening to this that is in that stage of life, you know, don't wait for a young one to come to you. Reach out to them, and hopefully one will respond, or two or three or four, and you'll be able to invest in them, because sometimes it's hard when you're like in my season, for example. It's like, I want to connect with more women, but I go to a 4 p.m. service. So what you're talking about with services, like, it's such a young service. We're kind of one of the oldest ones there. But I desire and long to have more older women in my life that can speak into it and help keep me accountable, but encourage me in the ways of the Lord. And so, yeah, that's my encouragement, as well as someone that's younger listening to you. Like, ladies, please find those women in the church and connect with them, because they actually want it. They love it. And to sit, I always think about my mum. She had a woman in the church that we were going to here on the Central Coast for years when my brother and sister were little, and she would meet up with her every week, and they would just pray for an hour or two. And this woman was so committed to mum, and just pray, and they would pray about all sorts of things. But it really laid such a great foundation for my mum in her prayer life, but also to see that even in the midst of, like, she literally would be breastfeeding one and the other one's running around, but they just do this prayer session every single week or fortnight, whatever it was. It's really impacted my mum. She still holds
Mm.
on to that, and she still adores that woman, and even though they might not be connected necessarily now. So, yeah, just my encouragement as someone that's younger, going, yes, we need more of that. And it's a really lovely and beautiful image of what the church is. So, Patricia, thank you for investing in the women that you do. You are such a
Thank you.
encourager. I
And
love
thank
it.
you for having me. And, that's the same thing I would say to older women. Don't be afraid, because young women really want it. Like for me, my problem is limiting it, because I can think of
Yeah,
6 more women I could be working with. And just so,
totally.
even just
Yep.
pray for someone and send them a text message to say, I prayed for you this morning, for you and your family. Keep well. I have just
Yeah.
done that and had the person text me back and say, thank you, Auntie. I really needed to hear that. Or send them a Bible verse and say, just encouraging you. I was thinking of you. I I mean, young people just really need that daily encouragement in the world today.
Absolutely. I agree. Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, Patricia, for your time. I really appreciate it. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. I mean, this was a great, why I like having you on, Patricia, because we can laugh and have fun. And this is a
True.
topic we should be able to have fun with, as well as be serious. um, so if you have enjoyed this episode, please like and leave a review, share it with your friends and family. Sharing it on like social media handles is probably the best way to get it out, or send it to your church family, whatever works for you. Subscribe if you're listening or watching this on YouTube, or follow along whatever podcast platform you're listening to, and follow along on Instagram as well. But other than that, have a great week, everyone. Patricia, thank you once again. I will put on the episode notes links to your website and resources as well. And otherwise, have a great week, everyone.